Welcome to part 3. I've opened up login.php, and you'll notice we have just opening and closing PHP tags and a brief little description. And we're going to be starting writing this. And first off, I want to explain a little bit about how we're going to be handling login. We're going to be obviously querying the database and checking to see if the username and password that the user entered matches what the database has. And if so, we're going to set a session variable and redirect the user on to the members.php page. So let me briefly introduce the concept of PHP sessions. Basically, they're a way to easily store information across multiple pages. They're temporary, so they'll be deleted either when session destroy function is called or when the browser itself is closed. And they work by temporarily setting a cookie on the user's machine that uniquely identifies them and allows them to interact with the server, and the server will automatically save variables associated with them. So we're going to be using sessions within our file as the way to authenticate the user and make sure if he's visiting a members page, we want to make sure that the session is set and he has authorization to do this. So the first thing we want to do in our login.php file is we want to start the session. So I'm going to do session start, like so. And what I should mention is you want to make sure that this is the first thing that the browser sees. If, for example, you have an empty line and say you have a space up here, that will cause issues. So you want to make sure that session start is the first thing in the file. So in this case, is the first thing after the opening PHP tag and a little bit of description. So we're going to start the session, and we also want to include a couple files. So I'm going to include my config.php, and we want to make sure that's within the includes folder. And then we also want to include the connection to the database, like so. Okay, so with that set, let's just make sure everything's working as it should be. Let's go ahead and also include our view. So login.php, and that's within the views folder. So I've saved this. Let's go ahead and preview. And one moment, let's go back to our config file and double check this. Okay, so it looks like it was a quick typo on my part. So we're going to go ahead and fix that. And one other thing that I noticed that I want to quickly fix as well is let's go back to our login.php view, and we need to change this line here. So we're going to close out the string, add the error variable, and do it like so. So we have a string, our variable, and another string. Let's go ahead and save that and go back to login.php. And there we go. Okay, so it's not perfect just yet. You can ignore the notices for now. We'll fix that in a minute. But obviously it is displaying the right file. So let's go back to login. Let's just double check this. And we need to make sure styles is actually style.css. There we go. Okay. So, like I said, not perfect, but things are working. So let's go back here, and let's start off by setting a couple of form defaults so we can remove those errors. So we're going to include, let me just go back and double check. So we have error alert, input user, input pass, error pass, and error user. Okay. So error alert, like so. and actually this is going to be input. Okay, so now let's go ahead and preview this file one more time, and you'll notice all the issues that we had have now gone away. Okay, so with that in place, let's think about the logic that we need. The first thing we need is right above here. Let's go ahead and check if the form has been submitted. We want to go ahead and process it. So if isSet, I'm going to check for the post variable, specifically submit. And if it has been submitted, we want to go ahead and process the form. Otherwise, we want to display the form. So in that case, we can just move this line up here. Okay, so now let's go ahead and figure out how we're going to process the form. First thing we want to do is make sure that the username and password are both filled in, because obviously we don't want the user entering if there's nothing entered there for the username and password. So if post, we're going to check if username, actually if that does equal nothing, or if post password equals nothing, we want to go ahead and display an error. So okay, and in that case we want to do another quick if statement. So if the username is the one that's blank, we want to change the error user, and we want to make that equal the required string, so like so. And then we want to do the same thing to the password. Okay, so assuming that one of these is empty, we also want to display an alert to the user. So error alert. We're going to want to ask the user, please fill in all the required fields. Okay. And then last thing, we quickly want to check get the values for username and password. Like so. And then actually I can just copy the line down here. And then we're going to redisplay the form back to the user. Okay, so let's go ahead and save this and preview. So we got our login form. Let's hit submit, and let me go back and check this. Sorry for all the mistakes. I should have caught this earlier. There we go. So take that out. Fresh. There we go. So we get an alert, it says please fill in all required fields. It indicates to the user which fields are required, and this one obviously is blank because the user filled something in. And we can switch it, fill in a random value here, submit, and you'll notice the same exact thing changes. You'll get required, and this one will still still stay filled in.